I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Collar and let him teach you guys about. You guys want to know about short sales? You know what a short sale is, don't you? Small houses, right? Listen up, because you see, here's the deal about short sales. Everything you're learning here is incorporated within that one technique. You're going to have times when you're going to want to get a private loan to pay off the property because the bank discounts it and it's ugly. And then before you're ever even going to start the short sale, the first thing you're going to do is get the deed. So that applies to today. And then you're going to have times when you're short selling pretty houses, you're going to have to sell them because that's the only way to raise the capital, because what the bank wants is much more than you're willing to borrow to buy the property and pay cash for it. So everything you're learning here, short sales is incorporated in all of it. And I'm going to let Jeff do the best he can to get you through the process. Now, how many of you think you're going to be an expert when Jeff gets through?
Got some smart people in the room.
There won't be no experts here today, I can tell you. But I hope there's enough here to at least get you to understand the process. All right. All right, here is Mr. Pre-Foreclosure, Jeff Collar.
This is a surprise we just came up with. This is why I'm in the business. This is what I live for. In a minute, you're going to know why I have a bottle of champagne next to my fax machine and next to my answering service. So when you get calls like this, we're about to hear, we're going to put it on the mic, and that's how we're going to start out our short sale explanation.
Now I got to hang around.
Wait, now you got to hear it. While he's doing that, how many people have heard my pee off the back porch example? I'm real. This is real. By a show of hands. Okay, good. I'll tell it then, because that's a good story, isn't it? All right, good.
We got this call today.
Got this call today.
New message, Thursday, 9:23 a.m.
Hi, Tony. It's Frank. I know you're on vacation the rest of this week, but I will be on vacation next week, so this is the only way to touch base. I just wanted to let you know where we're at as regarding lien Manto. We do see that there is 2 liens in front of us, so what we're going to, and there's not enough collateral left for us, so we're going to charge off this loan, so you don't have to worry about us in the short sale. If you have any questions, you can give me a call when I return, which won't be until June 2nd. I shoot back in the office. Otherwise, have a good vacation, and maybe we'll talk to you later. Bye.
So what happened on that call? Let me do the numbers, and we'll find out what happened on it.
Here's what it was.
I couldn't hear half of it.
There were 3 mortgages on the home. We got them to sign the deed to us. First was 80. Second was 70. Third was 100. The third did not check to see if there was a first. They thought they were in second position because the first was recorded 10 years ago. It's the ARV is 210, 250 owed on it.
They just wrote off 100.
They just charged off 100. Basically, I had to go down to the courthouse and pay $10 for a copy of the first deed and fax it to them, and they called back and said they just charged off the 100. So now it's a pretty good deal.
Not too bad of a deal. So that's let's look at the LTV.
U.S. Bank.
Get a deed on that house.
No money down. They just signed it over and said we're moving next week.
That's a 71% loan to value, because that third got just written off.
You didn't give them anything for their equity?
I gave him a handshake. 210.
210.
And it's a beautiful house. Maybe it needs a lawn mowed. It overlooks the Snake River. It's a gorgeous home. So
let's follow this. If the debt is 150 now, and the ARV is 210, 150 divided by 210 is what? 71%. Because they wrote off that third mortgage. Now, how did you have to negotiate this, or did they?
No, I just faxed it to him. First, he said we're second. I said let me fax you the deed. Fax it to him, and I've been leaving him messages. He's quit calling me once I faxed it to him.
They just rolled
and
over
he finally
on their back.
After about a week, he came back and said, yeah, we're going to write it off. And we're working on the second for a reduction too.
Ooh.
So it's a pretty good deal.
You're mean.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the second?
Well, whatever at this point, we could probably make a deal without doing anything, but just try to get him to reduce it some.
I bet that second will go to 50% because they're in second position regardless. So something that you should know and make a notation of. And honestly, you're going to have to take a lot of notes because we're starting out kind of slow. But as I get going, we're going to get going. There's going to be a lot of stuff to take notes on. Second mortgages will generally accept 10% of the entire balance. 10%.
Yeah, we started 4 weeks ago. So. No, the third. The ones that wrote off put the foreclosure in, and then following that up, the first put a foreclosure in. But the third actually put the foreclosure in place and sort of shot themselves in the foot.
You need to get that in writing as soon as you can before they figure out what's going on.
Well, he said on the phone call, here, you can do your short sale now. We're going to just write this off. So.
Wow. Okay. So that could be a huge deal. Let me tell you about a deal that I did a couple years ago. This deal's got a great story, so I'll tell you about it. But it'll also take you through the whole foreclosure process. So foreclosure starts on a 90-day notice of default, which is what? 3 months down, right? 90-day notice of default. What happens is, once it hits the 90-day NOD, there's going to be a notice of hearing prior to foreclosure. And this is North Carolina, so this is what happened in my state before I moved to Florida, which I'm now living in Florida. So this transaction was publicized at the courthouse records, which anytime a person goes in a courthouse, it's going to be publicized on public records. It's public knowledge. Now, about the same time that it's publicized at the courthouse, it's also going to be publicized in the paper. A couple different areas you can go. You can either go to the newspaper, or I prefer, just like Ron said earlier, to go to the courthouse, either produce your own list or buy your own list. Always better to buy your own list. Like here where we are, there's 3 list producers. The Atlanta Foreclosure Journal, there's a couple others. So they just produce it, they'll print it, and they'll have the amount of equity in it. So this came out, and we had been producing a list. We had to go produce our own list because we couldn't buy it. So we just went down with our laptop and the computer. Actually, someone in my office did. Produced this person's name, and we started sending out letters. I send out a series of 7 letters. 7 letters that go out to people that are in foreclosure. Because if you send out 1 letter, what happens? You get no calls. 1 letter means nothing. As a matter of fact, I just created a lumpy mail campaign. Most of what, I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, but most of what my house business is really across the nation. It's a nationwide house buying business because I form partnerships with a lot of you in the audience and a lot of people that I've talked to. So my business is doing partnership deals with students that I train how to do the business. So it's kind of a unique way of doing it where it's a great symbiotic relationship. We both benefit. So I've just moved to Florida and I'm cranking up my house business there. And I've got 2 guys on staff that are actually locally going to be doing my house business. So I'm creating a brand new lumpy mail campaign, which is pretty creative, that we send out to people that are in foreclosure to get calls. So this guy called me, and this is what I pulled off public records. Once I did the deal, I went back and pulled this off just so I'd have it. So here was the guy's loan, $255,000. He called me and proceeded to give me the details on his house. So I said, all right, great. Carl, tell me about your house. So he said, well, it's appraised at $360,000. I said, okay, that sounds good. Does it need any work? He goes, it needs absolutely no work. As a matter of fact, I put about $800,000 into this house. So I started thinking, $800,000, $360, this guy's not altogether there. I said, well, tell me about the house, Carl. It sounds like you might be a little bit upside down, but just tell me about what you did. So it took him about 45 minutes on the phone before I could get him stopped. He talked about 3 gazebos he'd put out there, a 2-car garage, $7,000 alarm system, $42,000 worth of wiring in the underground, outdoor lighting, jacuzzi, and then he got to the part where he was telling me about an indoor pool, heated pool with a bar, jacuzzi, all this other stuff. So at that point, I woke up and said, hey, this sounds pretty good, Carl. I'd like to see this $800,000 house that's worth $360,000. And so I said, give me directions. So he gave me directions, and usually I couple up my appointments. So I go out and I'll look at 3 or 4 houses at one time so that I'm not running all around town looking at deals at all the different times. And when I go to my appointments, I literally will tell the person on the phone, look, I'm going to be at your house for no more than about 12 minutes. I'm going to go see the house. I'm going to have you sign some paperwork. I want you to okay it. All we're going to do is put it on the hood of my car, and we're going to sign it right there. I'm going to spend about 5-6 minutes in your house. I don't really care about the condition of the house. I just want to see, basically what it looks like. Just like Ron says, I don't go through critiquing the house, crack up in left-hand ceiling. It doesn't really matter. Because in these transactions, you're going to be negotiating and creating so much debt that you're going to find out all these little piddly repair stuff makes no difference in this big scheme of operations. So jumped in the car, went out to see Carl. Now, this was the only appointment I had that day because this sounded pretty exciting. The minute I got in the car, I called the wife on the cell phone. Honey, I think we have the next house to move into. Perfect condition, and it has an indoor pool. And about that time, I started thinking about, me and my friends sitting around drinking a 12-pack, hanging out in this pool, and having a good old time because that's what we do in North Carolina. So, sure enough, I pulled out to take a look at this house. I went out to the neighborhood, which is really a rural area. And for some of you from North Carolina, I understand there's some rural areas there. And this was out in the boonies. Cow pasture surrounded it. Horses, just waving fields with big, tall buffalo grass. The wind was blowing. So this was in a killer area. So people from North Carolina die to have this kind of a house. Now, this doesn't get any better than this. So I started going up the street, nice windy curved street, and as I passed each house had these huge columns, looked like something out of some kind of a fiction movie. So drop dead gorgeous houses, and here was this house in the back cul-de-sac. Now the reason I call this the pee off the back porch house example is because in North Carolina we like to have pastures behind our houses with back porches so that we can pee off the back porch. That's what we do in North Carolina, which is kind of a cool thing. If you can't relate to that, I'm sorry, but if you ever live near a cow pasture, sometime you can do that, and it's an exhilarating experience. All right, so I'm a redneck. Forgive me. So here we go. I drive up this nice, windy driveway, get back to this cul-de-sac, and here's this house. I couldn't really see it. I pulled up to the house, and this is what was before me. This drop-dead, shall I say gorgeous, or shall I say disappointing? This is a Carolina blue house, nothing special. I know it's kind of, you guys are far from the back of the room, but this was a ranch-style house, about a 2,400 square foot house. The guy had put an insane amount of money into it, and I'll tell you the rest of the story there. But my heart sank. It was at the cul-de-sac, and so I quickly spun around in the gravel trying to get out, and he was out in the yard waving his hands, feeling, you're here, you're the right house. So I said, man, I got to go talk to this guy. So I jumped out and started to talk to Carl. And he told me the story and how he got into this situation. And sure enough, he had put, based on what I could tell, and obviously I didn't have the receipts, but he had put a lot of money into this house. As a matter of fact, here is the picture of the pool, which was an absolute compound. This thing was immaculate, unbelievable. The square footage in the pool alone was larger than the house that I was living in at the time. So I thought that was pretty groovy. So Carl was taking me around the yard, and I was asking him, Carl, how in the world did you get the money to do all this stuff to this house? And about that time, he hit the automatic garage door openers, and both doors came up at the same time. Beyond two very nice vehicles was this big, giant cardboard check that was leaning up against the back wall. And the check was about half the size of this table, and it said Finger Hut Sweepstakes winner on this giant check. And so at that point, I knew how he had got the money to fix the house. The ironic thing about this is that less than 24 months later, the money was gone. Guess how big the check was? $5 million. Now, granted, he only netted 3.2 because the government took their chunk. And what ended up happening was that people had swindled this guy. This was just a normal person that had no idea how to manage his money, which brings us to the point. This guy had all this cash, had this house, 24 months later, dead broke, 90 days down on his house payment. How does that happen? That's because you didn't understand the relationship of money. Didn't understand how this business actually works, how to have integrity with money. And so that's what we're going to talk about. That's the conversation. This just makes for a great transaction because it's got a really neat story. Now, it's not over. What ended up happening was Carl deeded the house to me right there on the spot, right in the driveway. Meanwhile, he's got all this stuff in this house. And now when I mean stuff, he had steadily been buying stuff for this past 2 years. Like killer furniture. Gorgeous couch. He had this white furniture, which he ended up giving to me. He had boxes in the kitchen that were literally stacked up, 4 feet high. Since I'm a chef, he had like cutlery knives and Hinkle knives and food processors. And of course, I was sitting there looking at the stuff going, Carl, what are you going to do with all this stuff? And he goes, actually, I don't want it. So I said, well, okay, you don't want this. No, I don't want anything. I don't want anything in this house. I said, what are you talking about, Carl? You can go have a garage sale and probably make thousands of dollars just by selling this stuff at a fire sale. I said, just to go do that so you've got the extra cash. He goes, look, I don't care about the cash. He goes, what I care about is getting out of this scene. At that point in time, he had a girl living with him. It was a biker chick who was had literally. I don't make light of the story because this was a real situation for this guy that was just basically just sucking money off of this guy. Just living there, and his family members had taken money from him. He had people that had swindled him out of $250,000 at a time. So this is what had happened to this guy. So it's a pretty sad story. So. He ended up taking some of the stuff out of the house, some of the little trinket items and that kind of thing, and I had the rest of the stuff. So about a week later, after he moved out, I had literally backed an 18-wheeler truck up to the house and unloaded the stuff. Started running an ad for a lease option buyer or to sell it for cash. And lo and behold, about 60 days later, somewhere around there, a couple came along, and it was two sisters, actually two twin sisters, and put the house under contract. Now, there were some credit issues, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to get them funded out. However, I got them pre-approved, and so my exit strategy was very simple, so follow me through this. All I did was find this house, negotiated the debt, and resold it to the people that came in that were going to buy the house and did buy the house using a brand new loan. That's called a simultaneous close. But let's go over the numbers, because the numbers were fairly challenging. Remember when I put that up on the screen earlier about the amount of loan that was on this house? We didn't really cover that. Here's what the original debt was on this property. You can see it. That number is $255,000. Now, he said the house was worth $360,000. As a matter of fact, he had an appraisal right there on the table. So did I believe him when he said the house was worth $360,000? Sure. I mean, there was an appraisal right there. So here I go. I get these two ladies qualified, ready to go. All I had to do was go get an appraisal. I already had all the stuff out of the house. All we had to do was close. So I get the first appraisal. Guy goes out, comes back, gives me a written copy. Appraisal comes back at $254,000. $254,000. Now, at the time that I had gotten involved with this transaction, the loan balance was not $255,000. It was about $272,000. Because of all the back interest and all the attorney's fees and all that other stuff that was added on top. So here we are looking at an appraisal of $254,000 with a loan balance of $272,000. By the way, does that sound like a transaction where you're going to make money on? Isn't that called upside down? Negative equity? That's what it was. So I said, well, this guy that's went and did the appraisal probably lives out here with all these cows. He probably didn't know what he's talking about. Let me get another appraiser. So I got another appraiser. He came back $255,000. At that point, I realized that house was not really worth over $255,000. So I said, it's real simple. I just called the guy that did the $360,000. You know the story. What happened was the guy was out of business. And there was a reason he was out of business. That was a refinance appraisal that was maxed. So I don't want to call this a scam, but what ended up happening was the broker really wanted the commission on this loan. He wanted the commission bad enough to talk the appraiser into bringing in at $360,000 so that this guy could do the refinance. So this was just one of the legs that he was able to postpone the house from being repossessed, was because he was able to go refinance his house. The thing was free and clear at one time. This house was free and clear when he hit that sweepstakes. And it was mortgaged to $272,000 with a value of $255,000. So what did I do? Someone in this transaction, I should say some entity, was going to take a loss on this, wasn't it? It wasn't going to be me, because at this point in time, I didn't have a whole lot of cash laying around. It wasn't going to be Carl, because Carl was worse than dead broke. So who would you imagine in this transaction is going to take the hit? The bank, of course. It's always the bank. And let me tell you about the banks. When I started buying houses, the first couple of years I got involved in this business, I amassed $1.2 million in equity. I bought close to 50 houses. Single family, duplexes, triplexes, all together was about 50 units, most of them single family. At one point in time, during this whole situation when I was buying all these houses, selling them, rehabbing them, and I had a great track record, and really I didn't go learn this from a seminar, I just figured it out. Actually, I bought a course off TV called No Money Down, and literally refinanced myself into this position. And what ended up happening was that these houses weren't cash flowing, so I went down to the bank and I said, here's my credit report. Got good credit, don't I? Yeah, you got pretty good credit, son. Let me take a look at your portfolio. Showed in the portfolio. Well, your portfolio is not really cash flowing real well. I said, yeah, but my credit report, it's like 6 feet high. It's all R and I-1s, which means I haven't missed a payment. Well, your DTI is completely out of whack. And the whole time he's looking at me, his nose is kind of curved up, and he's looking down his glasses at me. And, son, we're not going to give you a loan to help you out on these houses. So you can understand that I have a bit of a vindictive attitude when it comes to lenders. So if you hear that coming out in this discussion, I'm sorry, but I can tell you right now that banks that take discounts do not hurt my feelings. I don't have to break out a tissue and start wiping my eyes because it just doesn't hurt my feelings. And that's why. Because banks in this investment career is a very, very foolish way to build your investment. It really is. Do not build your empire using lender money. That's just my humble opinion. Because at any point in time, they can what? They can pull the plug. There goes your money. So I deal, and granted right now I'm very well connected. I can get as much money as I want for transactions because I am connected with private lenders. People that loan me money, that's another exit strategy we're going to talk about. People that loan me money as an exit strategy so that I don't have to go to a bank and borrow money. So it really works well because you're able to build strong relationships. So here we are. Got this house with a loan balance of $272 and appraisal of $255. Excuse me. So what I wanted to do with this transaction was I knew someone was going to have to take the hit and was going to have to be the bank. This is a very important piece of the short sale package that we're going to talk about in a minute. So I want you to notice this is actually the offer letter that goes over to the bank. This is really the letter that outlines the transaction and the situation that's going on because you've got to explain it to the bank. The person that you're going to be dealing with when you do short sales is called the loss mitigator. So you may want to jot that down. Loss mitigator is the person that you're going to contact. And we're going to talk about all the steps on how to do a short sale in a minute. So you want to paint this rosy picture, or I should say a very unrosy picture about this situation because you want to prove preponderance of evidence that this house should take a discount as opposed to the lender repossessing it. That's all you're doing. You're proving to the lender when you do a short sale, it's better for them to take a short sale and deal with you as opposed to repossessing the house. Everyone with me? If you're not, you're probably asleep because I just said that twice. So it's going to get exciting, I promise, if you guys are just kind of hanging out with me. So here we are. This is the letter that I sent out to the bank. And here's what it says. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but I want to touch on some important things. As you are aware from the broker's price opinion, which is a portion of the short sale package I'm going to explain in a minute. As you're aware of the broker's price opinion on this property, the comparables have greatly declined and the original refinance represented an extremely high value, which it has. It was actually maxed. This is a request for a discounted payoff. Anytime you send over this short sale offer letter, you're telling them exactly what you want to do. There's no fuzziness to this. The seller no longer lives in the property and has abandoned all hope. As he is unemployed, the house is not winterized and the pool represents major plumbing challenges because of lines, etc. So in this particular transaction, I'm starting to build a case for why they should take the short sale. I've convinced the seller not to file bankruptcy until after I close the purchase, of which he's agreed because I'm a nice guy. The net funding to home ec will be $172,400 at closing. Let's go back and think a minute. Hang on a second. This loan balance was at $272? That's a pretty steep discount for a first mortgage lender to take, isn't it? That is. That's close to $100,000, 80-something thousand. I'll pay all other fees. What you'll find enclosed are these items, which these are the items in a short sale package, which we're going to go over piece by piece. Lo and behold, this is what came over my fax at some point in the future. And this is where the bottle of champagne next to the fax machine makes sense, because when you get this is an acceptance letter with their letterhead. As you can see, they accepted $172,400. So when you get these letters, this is when you break open the bottle of champagne and start chugging. Because it's time to celebrate. You just negotiated this bank down $80,000. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it just says that they agreed to accept $172,000 in certified funds. So I had to come up with $172,000 to fund this transaction out, right? Where would I get the money? Just go down to the bank and borrow it, right? Yeah? Did someone say yeah? Okay. You're messing with me, right? The buyer was going to bring in this loan. So, again, all I did was find the deal, negotiate the debt, find a buyer. This cost me nothing. Matter of fact, I gained thousands and thousands of dollars worth of furniture out of this transaction before I even cashed the check. So this transaction has a kind of a neat story to it. So this is the reason I'm showing you this particular one. So let's go back through the numbers. The original value was $360. As per the appraisal, which was obviously rigged, seller's new refinance was $172 by the time all the other fees were included. The new appraisal was $255. I actually sold it at $254, so I gave them a whopping $1,000 in equity in this transaction. Here's their loan, 85% loan to value. Brought in a new loan for $215,900 minus the short sale payoff of $172. Was a modest check for $43,500. Not too bad, considering I had how much in this transaction? Zero. I was actually a little bit ahead, wasn't I, with the stuff in the house. But see, my heart went out to this guy because I had already gotten possession of the stuff. And this was one of the premier deals that I did when I said, I know I can cause what I want to happen in this business if I really want to make it happen. And I knew all I had to do was prove to that bank that they should take a short sale, and I knew I was going to get it. I mean, I could feel it in my bones. And so at this point in time, this was, if you fast forward, this was 2 years later. I'm still doing the exact same thing, only I've gotten a lot more savvy. I've got a lot more tricks to pull out of my back pocket. So this is what happened. We ended up giving cash to seller $5,000. Net profit was $38,500. We also carried back a $38,100 second mortgage, all because this lender, which you should write down, they're big discounters. Home Ec was able to discount $82,600 on one transaction. So this deal became possible for that. By the way, with this overhead up there, does anyone notice anything quirky about what we're talking about? Does anything stand out on this piece of paper like this? See that $5,000? For those of you that have good eyes and aren't sitting a quarter of a mile in the back of the room, let's look at this payoff statement. The seller's borrowers are to receive no cash or proceeds from the transaction. Oops. Did we do something wrong? Because here we are. Look at this. The seller got $5,000. This is part of the paper trail thing that you need to build when you're doing these deals. So it's an important nuance that I do want to point out. Anytime the seller gets cash on a transaction, the lender that's doing the short sale is not going to approve the seller getting cash. I can tell you that right now. So what would be a way around it? I'll tell you. It's simply called a bill of sale. All you're doing is I bought the stuff in his house for $5,000, and it was literally a bill of sale. It says for the sum of $5,000 in consideration, all the items in the house. Now, I vaguely list it. So what if you get a house that's basically vacant and the seller wants cash and you're able to do the short sale? You include the bill of sale and you can buy the microwave in it, you can buy the fixtures, what have you. But see, it needs to be a transaction where you are compensating the seller for items in the house and not for compensation of the sale. So that's not too difficult, is it? Just make sure, because if the seller wants to get cash, the lender is not going to take a short sale in this transaction and watch the seller get cash. That just doesn't make sense, does it? So let's go on the short sale steps and the short sale process on how you are going to get a short sale when you're doing these deals. So as I said, lenders want proof that the house that they're going to repossess, they're going to do better if they take the short sale now and deal with you as opposed to repossessing it, listing with a realtor, because that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to repossess the house. They're going to list it with a realtor. 20% is going to evaporate right out the window. 20% meaning 6% to the realtor for commission. There's going to be a certain amount of holding cost, which brings us to another very important ratio. And you definitely want to write this down. Countrywide will take 82% of the BPO to settle as a short sale. Now, the BPO stuff, I know there's questions as I talk, but I'm going to go through this all piece by piece. 82% of the BPO. That's on a first mortgage. The second has a bit of a play in it depending on the position or not the position, but how much the loan balance is. So let's start explaining how this short sale process actually works. And as we go through, I'll be able to expand on the BPO thing. I definitely don't want to take any questions right now because you haven't even heard the whole story. What we're going to do is I'm going to go through the story, and when we get to a point where we can pause, then you can start hitting me with questions. So this is what we do. This is what I did on this transaction. I got the authorization to release. Remember the one that's in Ron's course? Just like that. As a matter of fact, it looked just like that. We changed it and tweaked it a little bit as I've been playing around with it. You send the lender the authorization to release. Now, you've got to get the account number and the contact number to the person in loss mitigation, and that's how you send this authorization off to the bank. Because you can just call up to the bank and talk to them about their account, someone else's account, can't you? Isn't that easy to do? No. Not at all. They're not going to talk to you until you have an authorization. Send the authorization, but here's how this works in loss mitigation. In most of the lenders, loss mitigators, there's one loss mitigator working on a whole bunch of houses. And that's with most banks. In some banks, like Countrywide, Fairbanks, they're going to have a team of loss mitigators, which may be 5 to 20 people, all working in one big boiler room, and they're all handling these transactions. At any point in time, any of them can answer the phone, go up on a computer screen. You stand advantages both ways. If you're dealing with one loss mitigator, you can build incredible rapport. You can befriend this person, work with them. Then as you're doing other deals, just like I do other deals, I've already established relationship. Being in this business 8 years, a lot of these loss mitigators know who I am. They know me by name, and they know I can close deals. So that carries clout. It also works as a bad thing. So if I get on a bad setting with a loss mitigator, and for some reason we just have words and we hate each other, what does that mean? The next deal that I go to that loss mitigator on, they're going to be like, there's that jerk. And I'm going to be saying, there's that idiot with the chip on their shoulder. So if you're dealing with a bunch of different loss mitigators, then you can get the person that your personalities seem to mesh. So this is kind of a personality thing. You're going to be dealing with the person that's handling the loan. So you contact the loss mitigator, you send them the authorization, and here's where you should start writing down the very important steps. So the minute I get on the phone, by the way, when you call the loss mitigator the first time, do you think you're going to get? No. People are busy. If you can picture them, they're sitting in a cubicle with, 1,900 other people in a room like this, crammed in a sweaty work spot with people talking on these little things. They got 50 million files on their desks that they've got to work through this short sale process. So loss mitigators are handling these properties that are in default by the thousands. If it's an individual, probably 50 or 60 files at one point in time. So you contact them, and this is what I say. I say, hey, I'm Jeff Collar. You've got the authorization, I assume. I need to do a short sale on this account. Will you please fax me over the short sale package? If it's a first mortgage, I automatically ask for the short sale package because I know that just about 99.9% of all the first mortgage lenders are requiring short sale packages. So if it's a second mortgage, I'll just ask them and say, look, do you need to see a short sale package to be able to do this transaction? And some of them say, no, not really. We just need an offer. So second mortgages, a lot easier. You don't have to do a short sale package. First mortgage, you better get the package. Next thing out of my mouth, what is the easiest way for me to be able to communicate with you? Do you like fax, email, or phone? Guess which one they dislike the most? Phone. They can't stand to talk on a phone because their job, it's the definition of insanity. I got 1 million investors calling them all day. Some of them have no clue what's going on. They don't even know what a short sale is, and they're requesting just dumb things from the person that's in loss mitigation, and basically they're just ticking a person off. So the person is going to want to be dealt with by fax or by email. I seldomly call. This becomes a business where you negotiate over the fax machine. Oddly enough, it's amazing. So I don't call unless I've got a good, solid reason or we hit an impasse, and I've got to use my negotiating communication skills to get this person to see what I'm trying to see. So I ask them the best way to communicate. By the way, when's the best time of the day to call you? I know you're swamped. I wouldn't dare call you on Friday, so tell me what's the best day. And sometimes they'll tell you. But see, when you start to develop this kind of rapport, what's happening? I'm kind of separated from the pack, right? Because I'm not every other person out there, Tom, Dick, and Harry, that's calling up just asking, oh, will you do a short sale? Yes, we will do a short sale if it makes sense. And we probably won't do it for you because you sound like an idiot. That's what they're thinking. Okay, so I ask what's the best time to talk, what's the best way to communicate, and it'll be by fax more than likely. So over your fax machine is going to come the short sale package. Let's go over the components in the short sale package. One of them is going to be a financial statement form. That financial statement form is actually going to be the financials of the borrower in the house, the previous the seller that deeded you the house. They want financials. Now, why would they want to do that? Whatever you said. They want to see and make sure that the person's not financially well off and can't really afford the house. Because if they can afford the house, they're not going to want to do a short sale. One time I was dealing with EquiCredit. We got all the way down to closing. They pulled the guy's credit. That there was a seller that had already deeded me the house. Honestly, I knew I had this deal in the bag so much. I had already moved the lease option buyer into the house. And the guy hadn't started making me payments yet, so don't worry. I wasn't equity skimming or anything. I moved in. I didn't need the short sale to do the deal. I could have funded it out. Pulled the guy's credit, which was the seller. On there was $100 and something thousand Mercedes, or like a $90,000 Mercedes, payments current. You think this ticked the guy off? Didn't take him long. He got back right on the phone. He was cussing me for everything I was worth and said, look, this blankety blank idiot has got a Mercedes that's 100%. The payments are current. I'm not doing a short sale. Forget about it, and hung up on me. So we were able to prove that the guy co-signed for a daughter who was making the payments, and she was making them on time because she was a doctor and she could afford to make them, and he was broke. And I was able to prove that to the guy, so we got the short sale. We got a good short sale. You know, it was $30-something thousand short sale, all said and done. So the financial statement is there for that reason. Financial statement is number one. Number two is going to be a HUD settlement statement. I'm really listing these in the order of importance for the most part. Some of these pieces you can leave out. We'll go back and we'll notate the ones that you can leave out through most of the lenders or some of the lenders. So the HUD settlement statement is a statement that really tells the lender where all the money is going. It's the closing statement. Anyone not know what a HUD is? HUD settlement statement? So it's just a document at closing that shows where the money is going to be dispersed. Now, usually an attorney will create a HUD settlement statement. I can tell you that in our office we create our own HUDs because they're preliminary HUDs. So what we're doing is we're creating negotiating HUDs. If you learn how to fill out a HUD, actually I shouldn't say if you, when you learn how to fill out a HUD, which all of you should learn how to do this. If you're going to be in real estate, you've got to know how to fill out a HUD because you've got to know where the numbers are. That would be like becoming a rocket science without being able to read, a book. If you're in real estate, you got to understand where the numbers go, how to read. I've met realtors in the business for 10 years and couldn't read a HUD. Couldn't explain it to me. So it's a very important thing. So you can get software to create a HUD. As a matter of fact, Lou's going to be here, I think later on tonight or whenever he is. I use his software to create the HUD because that's a major point. And Rick and Steve and myself in the office all just create the HUDs and type them up so we can send them to the lender. So you're creating the HUD settlement statement, which is a piece of software that you can get. Get it from Lou. It's dogged cheap. I mean, it's a couple $100 or something like that. Well worth it. If you don't do anything this weekend, get that. Especially if you're going to do this business, the pre-foreclosure business. So the HUD settlement statement is going to go over with the negotiated numbers on it. And we can't really get into how to fill out the HUD and all that, but that's a big part of this part of the business is where the numbers go. I can tell you this, that in one of the columns where your offer is the short sale offer, and that's going to be on the HUD. When the lender gets the HUD, they're going to look at the HUD. The first thing they're going to do is look at what your offer is. It's also called the net sheet. So you want to write HUD / net sheet is what the lender calls it. Third thing is going to be a hardship letter. Now, a hardship letter is nothing more than a one-pager saying, this is the seller, fills it out, says, hey, I lost my job, something's going on medical-wise, husband ran off, we both lost our jobs, just some kind of horrid story, which is not hard to find in this business, and I won't be able to make my payments in the future. It shouldn't say, hey, I'm sorry, I screwed up, don't have a job, but my husband just landed a $94,000 a year job, so please accept my apologies. You don't want to say anything like that. So you may want to coach your seller a little bit and make sure the thing's filled out right. Make it sound pretty bleak. In most cases, you're not going to have a problem. So the fourth major piece is the standard offer to purchase. Now, the offer to purchase, I hope I don't have to explain what that is. That is a transaction that actually is the meeting of the minds, as Ron calls it, where you know what you're going to buy the house for. They know what they're going to sell the house for. By the way, your short sale offer is what you are putting on the contract. So that's what's going over to the lender. So you got the standard offer to purchase, the hardship letter, the HUD statement, you guys are writing it down. What was the fourth? Financial statement. Those are the main items that you need. In some cases, you are going to need bank statements from the individual. You need pay stubs. These are items that you could get away without doing. Most of the time they'll say, hey, we need bank statements. We noticed you didn't send them in the package. Well, the guy's credit stinks to the point where he can't even open a bank account. He's not working, so he doesn't have W-2s. There you go. We just got out of those two. So what we do with our packages, we neatly put them together with a cover letter explaining what the transaction is all about, just like the letter that I put up there. Remember the letter, the offer letter? That goes in a FedEx envelope. We used to just used to fax these short sale packages. It goes into FedEx. We send it off to the lender. Lender gets it, opens it up. Wow, this looks pretty good. We've had lenders call us and say, that's the best looking short sale package we've ever gotten. So let's just think about this short sale package. That takes a little bit of time, doesn't it? Gosh, you might could spend a week on that if you got around to playing around with all the documents and stuff. I can tell you that in a lot of cases, and we've really streamlined it. I'll answer your question in just a minute. We've streamlined it. When I go out to buy the house, guess what's in my hand along with the deed package? The short sale package. Because they fax this into our e-fax. We collect it in the computer and we've got it. We can print it out, nice, clean, neat forms. And then you've got that you can take out in a folder. You've already got it there. Just have them fill the thing out. Now, granted, you got to know who the lenders are. So you could go do that all in one meeting. 15-minute meeting, you just have them fill out the stuff. Now, when they go through the financials, they don't need to go through all their tax reports, with a pencil erasing things where they've done incorrectly. I'm just like, go through this thing as fast as you can. Boom, 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 put this here, put this here. Now, I'm not telling them where to put stuff, but I want them to do it quickly because I don't want to. This stuff is simply answering a need of the lender. And you're not going to get around most of these pieces. So let's say it takes you a week to put one of these short sale packages together. Let's say that this short sale package also gains you another, this one gained me $87,000 discount or whatever it was, $82,000 discount. Let's say it gains you $20,000. So that 40-hour week, assuming you stayed up and worked on this thing 8 hours a day, gains you $20,000. Is that a pretty good use of your time? It is. It's just part of the business. What's daunting about the short sale packages is that people look at it, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. It's like an exam that you're waiting to cram on. You wait till the very last minute and you're sitting there drinking coffee trying to finish it up. Just put it together, organize yourself, and it's not a daunting task. It goes quickly. Those are the pieces of the short sale package. So the short sale package, zip, goes back to the lender. Get back on the phone with the lender. Actually, I missed a very important point. When I'm on the conversation, the very preliminary conversation with the lender, I always ask them. By the way, if you're getting sleepy, now's not a real good time to get sleepy because I'm going to give you some insider stuff that last people I told this insider information to I had to kill. It was about 320 people in a room, so no. So I call the lender and I say, look, has there been a BPO ordered on the property? BPO is a broker's price opinion. So a broker's price opinion is nothing more than the lender calling an outsourcing company who in turn calls a realtor or an appraiser and tells the realtor, go over to 7840 Chambers Street and give me a BPO, a broker's price opinion. And so this outsourcing company is going to call this realtor and they're going to go out and do it. So where should you be involved in this part of the transaction? Let me explain. You tell the lender, look, this person is no longer living in this house, or they're living in the house, their phones are disconnected, they're not going to talk to you, I'm handling everything. Oh, by the way, I have a power of attorney if you need to see, I'll be glad to fax it over along with the authorization. By then you would have already sent the authorization. But I got the power of attorney, so I'm really handling this whole thing for them. Well, who are you? I'm the buyer, which is another important point before I get to the BPO. You are the buyer of the house. You are not an investor. The worst thing you can do is send over this big giant cover sheet with you saying this is Happy Home Buyers Inc. or whatever the name of your home buyer company is, like you're some big investor person trying to buy the house. Lenders don't want to work with investors. Why? Because investors want to make money on the transaction, which means the lenders are going to lose money on the transaction. Don't present yourself in that light or you've already notched a couple of notches down on their books. So I call them and say, have you ordered the BPO? As a matter of fact, we have not. Okay, go ahead and do so. Have them contact me. Here's my cell phone number. Have the person doing the BPO or the appraiser, whoever's doing it, just call me so I can get them in the house. Well, we're going to just do a drive-by on this one. If they don't tell you that they're going to do a drive-by, you ask them. Here's why. They could go out. This house could have 4 feet of fecal matter in it. Cat, dog, human, it doesn't matter. Would the person that's doing a drive-by see that? Absolutely not. You want them to get in the house with their wading boots on, wade through this fecal matter so that they can get the full experience of why this house should have a discount on it. So I want to be in control of that. Just the other day, it wasn't the other day, it was about a month ago, I heard Rick in the office, which is one of my chief negotiators. A lot of you that opt to do partnership deals with me will be dealing with myself and Rick and Steve. Heard Rick on the phone. The lender said, well, we're going to do a drive-by. Rick said, no, don't do that. You need to look at the inside of the house. So you may want to call me to make sure I'm there, because it's very important that you're there with the person. But here's the thing. You want to be in control of this BPO process. This is very important. This whole short sale business hinges. This is a seesaw with this pivot point right here. If you're on this seesaw and you screw this up, the chances of your short sale are way down the tubes. So when people come up to me and say, lenders are not doing short sales anymore, lenders are getting tough to deal with, that's true, but I can tell you, why are we getting 70, 80, 90% of our short sales accepted? Because it's me? No. They don't. Most of these people don't know who I am. It's because we're building a great short sale package. We're building a preponderance of evidence that the lender should take the short sale, and I've got my hands in the soup bowl completely. So what happens is the realtor calls me, the person doing the BPO, and they say, hey, I'll be out at Chambers Street. Can you meet me out here at 2 o'clock tomorrow? Sure. So you go out there and you let them in. Before I show up, I'm going to show up with low comparables. The very lowest comparables I can possibly find. That's okay. Comparables, by the way, are comparing other values in the neighborhood. So you can either go high, you can go medium, or you can go low. I choose to go low. Why is that? Because I want that lender to be looking at a low value. I don't want a high value. And if it's a lender that I recognize is really going to take a short sale, I'll go a step further. I might even go ahead and get a few contractor estimates. Contractor estimates are a major, major tool. This is how my discussion goes with the person in loss mitigation. This is on the preliminary call. I go, look, how do you feel about doing a short sale on this property? Because I'm going to need one to buy the property. So we're really backing up to the original conversation. And sorry for scattering all over, but without having notes in front of me, I'm just going through what I do so that you can see the whole experience. And I want to do it basically live how it happens. So I tell the person, I say, look, how do you feel about doing a short sale on this? Is it out of the question, or are we going to be able to get this done? Because I can close quickly. If they say, look, don't send us a short sale package, we're not doing a short sale, forget about it, go jump in a lake, lose my phone number, all that good stuff, then you know that you're going to have a pretty rough time doing it. If they say, look, we don't do short sales, then contest them. Let me tell you that all lenders do short sales. VA you're going to have a rough time with. I stay away from VA because it's beating a dead horse. So most other lenders, especially Countrywide, you already know Countrywide, I just told you, take 82% of this BPO value. Knowing that you know the 82%, where should your offer be? It should be 80 or function thereof, but you know that they're going to take 82. Why not start a little bit lower and then work your way up? So I ask them, what are the chances of doing a short sale? And if they say, not a snowball's chance in hell, then I'll say, well, you know what? All lenders do short sales if the numbers are right. You're telling me that if the value of the house is 125%, yet the BPO is at 65% of this value, you're telling me you're not going to do a short sale. So you're calling them on their bluff. All lenders do short sales. I'm just telling you they do. Just take my word for it. So if the person says, yeah, if the numbers make sense, we'll do a short sale, obviously, because they understand that you understand. And so if they say that they're going to do a short sale based on the numbers, it would be in my best interest to go get these contractor estimates. So I show up with low comps, contractor estimates, painting this bleak picture on this house. So I'm walking around with a realtor. We're looking at the house. And at this point, I'm not ignoring the crack in the left-hand part of the ceiling. I'm holding my nose going, geez, what is that smell? My gosh, is that the tail of a dead cat underneath that chair? Whatever you can say. There's a dead body in the basement or whatever, what have you. So you're building this picture. You're grossing this person out, and you're giving them the comps and these repair estimates. Now, I don't physically hand them to them. I just say, look, here's about what the repair estimates came in on this house. Really wanted to help you out with this. In some cases, the person that's doing the BPO will say, look, I can't take any of that. I'm working for the bank. This is not really none of your business. That's happened twice. Most cases, they're going to say, okay, well, let me take a look at it. get the person's number that's doing the VPO, and I'll say, look, we're basing the numbers coming in somewhere around here. Does that look pretty plausible? Oh gosh, it looks a little bit low. Well, just go work on it and tell me if you think that's going to work. So they go back to their office. 24 hours later, I call them. Hey, how's it going with the BPO? You think you're going to be able to get around this number? Oh, possibly. They finish the BPO. BPO zooms off to the lender. They get it. And I call them. All happy, Mr. Chipper. Hey, how's it going? Did you get the BPO back? Yes, we got it back. Where's my offer going at? My offer is going to go right around that BPO or a tad bit lower. In some cases, and I want you to follow me on these numbers. Actually, I should get up here and let's write these numbers down. Look at the effect that this has on a transaction. It's very critical stuff. Let's look at this countrywide transaction. Let's just say that it's a $300,000 house. As it sits, let's say with low comparables, comes down to $225,000, which is extremely easy to do. Just take my word. A value can go from $300,000 to $225,000 very easily. Now, they're going to bounce 82% off of the $300,000 if you weren't there to affect their opinion. So that's the number in their head unless you go do something different. Now, in some cases, the person that's doing the BPO is going to come back with a low number just because the house looks pretty grungy. So 82% of $300,000 is $246,000. Okay, so at this, we got $246,000. Look at what happens when you bounce 82% off of $225,000. Whoops. Oh my gosh. That looks like $184,000. Now remember, the house could actually be worth $300,000. So let's just say that in most cases, when you represent repair estimates on a house and you go get a contractor that's out of the yellow pages that has the absolute biggest, most expensive yellow page ad, do you think that their estimate is going to be high or low? Very high. I can tell you that when I get into a transaction, after I know they're going to do the discount, I will spend a lot of time on this. I'll get a contractor that likes to do very good work. And then the repair jobs that I do, if I was going to rehab the house, which I don't rehab houses, folks. I just don't do rehabs. I got burned out on it. It doesn't suit my personality well. For one thing, I travel. I don't have any system set up for it. Conversely to Robin Thompson, who does rehabs, she's got a whole system set up for it. I just choose not to build the system. So it's just two different theories. It doesn't mean that she's right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and she's wrong. We are making choices on which way we want to go. You, as you're starting out, I would look at all these transactions with a heavy focus, knowing that when you get a deal that's in default, there's a bunch of killer exit strategies, a bunch of ways that you can turn a $23,000 check into a $57,000 check. So look at what happened here. Let's just assume that the actual repairs on this house were simply carpet, some interior paint, replacing some gutters, maybe repainting the driveway or just doing surfacing the driveway. Let's say in this transaction you've got $10,000 in repairs and you could come in and sell it. So let's just say you could come in and sell this thing even under market value. I mean, I would go, on an auction, I would go somewhere probably around $249, which you're going to hear a little bit about the auction process. Look at the equity on this particular transaction. Now, when I sell my houses and I sell them for cash because I sell them through auctions, which we're really not going to get into right now, but I've got to tell you a little bit about it, is we're selling most of our houses at a bit of a discount because the auction just demands a bit of a discount. But look at the whopping discount. This is why we can sell our houses for under market value. By the way, it kind of coincides with the whole